The Arcturus Confederation's First Contact Division had encountered hundreds of emerging civilizations over their millennia of existence. They had protocols, procedures, and predictions for every conceivable scenario. Yet nothing in their vast archives could have prepared them for humanity. Admiral Vix stood before the Confederation's High Council, her iridescent scales dulled with stress as she delivered her report. The massive chamber, hewn from living crystal deep within Arcturus Prime, amplified her every word to the assembled representatives of 50 spacefaring species. "The humans detected our observation platforms," she announced, causing a ripple of surprise through the assembly. "Not only detected them, but disabled 3 of them before we could initiate first contact protocols." High Counselor Genta, his multiple compound eyes reflecting the chamber's crystalline glow, leaned forward. "Impossible. Those platforms utilize quantum camouflage technology. They're undetectable even to our own sensors. The humans," Vix continued, "developed what they call quantum interference mapping. They didn't need to detect our platforms directly. They detected the minute distortions in space-time caused by our quantum camouflage." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "They developed this technology while searching for dark matter." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Quantum camouflage had been the Confederation's greatest defensive innovation in the past century. These humans had essentially bypassed it as a side effect of their scientific curiosity. "There's more," Vix pressed on. "When we established official contact, their response was unexpected. Instead of the usual awe or fear, they presented us with a comprehensive analysis of our vessel's capabilities, including several potential weaknesses in our shield harmonics they had identified during our approach. They threatened us." Counselor Mira of the Silicon Collective asked, her crystalline form vibrating with concern. "No," Vix replied. "They offered suggestions for improvements. Their exact words were, 'We found similar vulnerabilities in our own shield designs. Here's how we fixed them.'" The High Council chamber fell silent. In the history of the Confederation, no species had ever responded to first contact by offering technical advice to their visitors. "Their military capabilities?" Genta inquired. Vix activated a holographic display. "By conventional metrics, unremarkable. Their ships are smaller than ours, their weapons less powerful. But," she highlighted several data points, "their combat doctrine is unlike anything we've encountered. While we perfect single solutions, they maintain dozens of overlapping systems. Their weapons are less powerful but more numerous, their shields weaker but layered in unexpected ways." "You believe they pose a threat?" The question came from the shadows, where Elder Cax, last of the precursor species, observed from his traditional place of seclusion. "I believe," Vix chose her words carefully, "that we must reevaluate our definition of threat. The humans don't think like us. When we showed them our antimatter containment systems, they immediately proposed 12 different ways to improve efficiency. When we demonstrated our fastest ships, they suggested alternative approaches to FTL travel we had never considered. Their military strength," Genta pressed. "Impossible to accurately assess," Vix admitted. "They appear to view every technology, every scientific advancement, through multiple lenses simultaneously. Their civilian ships can be converted to military use within hours. Their agricultural systems can be repurposed to produce bioweapons or healing agents with equal efficiency. Even their entertainment systems utilize quantum computing algorithms that could be repurposed for battlefield calculations." Elder Cax's ancient voice resonated through the chamber. "You're describing a species that has evolved beyond specialized systems." "Yes," Vix agreed. "They don't build weapons. They build tools that can become weapons. They don't build shields. They build energy manipulation systems that can defend, attack, or power cities with equal effectiveness. Every piece of their technology serves multiple purposes, can be reconfigured, adapted, improved." The council chamber remained silent as the implications settled in. The Confederation had encountered warrior species before, had faced civilizations that devoted themselves entirely to military might. But humanity was different. They had developed their incredible adaptability not through any desire for conquest, but through their relentless pursuit of efficiency and understanding. "Your recommendation, Admiral?" High Counselor Genta finally asked. Vix straightened. "We proceed with diplomatic relations, but we must approach them as equals, not as patrons uplifting a primitive species. The humans have already begun incorporating some of our technical specifications into their own designs, improving upon them in ways our engineers are still trying to understand. They don't need our guidance. They need our partnership." As the Council debated this unprecedented recommendation, Vix reflected on her final conversation with the human diplomatic team. They had asked her, with genuine curiosity, why the Confederation's ships all followed the same basic design principles. "Doesn't that make your entire fleet vulnerable to the same tactics?" They had wondered, wouldn't it be better to have different ships with different strengths? The humans, she realized, didn't just think outside the box. They questioned why boxes needed to exist at all. The Confederation's assessment fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, a formation of sleek vessels arranged in the traditional Sentinel pattern. Captain Lyra Nex watched the holographic display as Earth's defense grid registered their arrival. She expected the usual automated warnings, the standard posturing any species would display when confronted with a superior force. Instead, her sensors detected nothing. No warnings, no defensive posture, no visible reaction at all. "Status report," she commanded. Her sensor officer, a quantum patha AI housed in a crystalline matrix, pulsed with confusion. "The humans appear to be ignoring us, Captain." "Impossible. We have 30 warships in attack formation. Their orbital platforms continue normal operations. Their ships maintain standard patrol routes. They've made no attempt to communicate." Lyra felt her facial tendrils twitch with irritation. This wasn't how the assessment was supposed to proceed. The Confederation's strategy relied on carefully calibrated shows of force, demonstrations of superior technology that would ensure diplomatic compliance. "Launch the probe swarm," she ordered. 5,000 autonomous drones deployed from the fleet's hangars, their quantum sensors prepared to map Earth's defensive capabilities in detail. The probes never made it halfway to their targets. Without warning, space itself seemed to ripple. The probe swarm vanished, only to reappear seconds later, each drone now encased in a translucent bubble of warped spacetime. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission. Text only." The message appeared on her command screen. "Interesting design on those probes. We've taken the liberty of containing them in localized time dilation fields for your safety. Some of your quantum scanning frequencies were dangerously close to resonating with our defense grid. Would you like them back?" Lyra felt her crew's unease. The humans hadn't just neutralized their probe swarm. They had done so with technology the Confederation had never encountered before. And they were being polite about it. "Open a channel," she commanded. A holographic interface materialized, showing a human woman in what appeared to be casual attire, sitting in what looked more like a comfortable living space than a military command center. "Welcome to Sol," the human said, smiling. "I'm Director Sarah Chen of Earth's Defense Innovation Division. I apologize for the lack of formal reception, but we were in the middle of testing some new defensive concepts when you arrived. Your probe swarm provided an excellent opportunity for a practical demonstration." Lyra struggled to maintain her diplomatic composure. "Director Chen, I am Captain Lyra Nex of the Confederation Assessment Fleet. Our presence here is a standard protocol." Yes, Chen interrupted, still smiling. "The show of force to ensure we understand our place in the galactic hierarchy. Admiral Vix warned us this might happen. Would you like a tour? Your ship designs are fascinating, and we'd love to discuss some ideas we have for improving your reactor efficiency." "This is not a social call, Director. The Confederation must assess. Your current shield configuration leaves you vulnerable to quantum tunneling attacks." Chen continued as if Lyra hadn't spoken. We noticed it when you dropped out of hyperspace. We could demonstrate if you'd like, but that might be considered hostile. Instead, we're transmitting the theoretical framework for a solution. Our engineers think you'll find it interesting. Lyra's tactical officer suddenly announced, "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures, thousands of them, materializing throughout the system." The space around Earth rippled again, and Lyra watched in astonishment as installations simply appeared out of nowhere. Space stations, defense platforms, shipyards, and entire military infrastructure that had been completely invisible to their sensors. The tactical display was chaos as it tried to catalog the suddenly visible human military assets. Not just their number, but their variety was staggering. No two installations appeared to use the same technology base. Some rippled with energy fields the sensors couldn't classify. Others seemed to bend light around them in impossible ways. A few appeared to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. "How?" Lyra began. "Diversity of approach," Chen explained. "We found it's best not to put all your eggs in one basket, as we say. Every research division develops their own solutions. We find the overlapping redundancy leads to some fascinating innovations." A new hologram appeared, showing a massive structure near Earth's moon. "That's our latest project," Chen said proudly. "We call it the Infinity Mirror. It creates recursive copies of incoming attacks and redirects them through probability space. Still working out some kinks in the targeting systems. But enough," Lyra finally managed. "Director Chen, the Confederation requires a clear understanding of Earth's military capabilities." Chen's smile widened. "Well, that's the interesting part, Captain. So do we. You see, with every team pursuing different approaches, with every innovation spawning new possibilities, we're not entirely sure what we're capable of either. Isn't that exciting?" Lyra realized with growing unease that this wasn't just a demonstration of human military power. This was a glimpse into something far more fundamental, a species that had turned unpredictability itself into a defensive strategy. As her tactical officers struggled to make sense of the constantly shifting sensor readings from Earth's defense grid, Lyra began composing her report to the High Council. How could she assess the military strength of a civilization that treated technological advancement as an endless experiment, that seemed to view the laws of physics themselves as mere suggestions? The humans hadn't just survived first contact with a superior civilization. They had turned it into an opportunity for innovation. The Confederation's Grand Assembly Hall had never been this crowded. Representatives from every member species packed the tiered seating, their attention fixed on the diplomatic delegation from Earth. The humans had been invited to present their case for full membership in the Confederation, but the proceedings had taken an unexpected turn. "You want to do what?" High Counselor Genta's compound eyes flickered in disbelief. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, Earth's chief diplomatic representative, adjusted his glasses calmly. "We propose a complete restructuring of the Confederation's military doctrine. Our analysis suggests your current standardized approach creates significant strategic vulnerabilities." The assembly erupted in overlapping voices. Some demanded the humans be removed immediately. Others called for silence to hear more. Elder Cax's ancient voice cut through the chaos. "Let them speak." Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing the Confederation's fleet formations. "Your ships are beautiful, perfectly engineered. And that's the problem. You've achieved what you believe to be the optimal design for each class of vessel. But optimization creates predictability, and predictability is a weakness." Admiral Vix, now serving as liaison to the human delegation, watched the reactions ripple through the assembly. The humans weren't just challenging Confederation doctrine. They were challenging tens of thousands of years of technological evolution. "Our proposal is simple," Rodriguez continued. "Instead of standardizing designs, we encourage variation. Instead of seeking perfect solutions, we embrace multiple imperfect ones. The strength isn't in the individual components, but in their interactions." A new hologram appeared, showing Earth's seemingly chaotic defense network. Ships of wildly different designs moved in patterns that appeared random but contained hidden complexity. Weapon systems that shouldn't work together somehow enhanced each other's capabilities. "This is madness," declared Counselor Mira of the Silicon Collective. The computational resources required to coordinate such disparate systems would be impossible using conventional computing, Rodriguez agreed. "That's why we developed quantum biological hybrid systems, living computers that can adapt and evolve in real time." The silence that followed was profound. The creation of true artificial life was forbidden by the Confederation's oldest laws, but the humans hadn't created artificial life. They had found a way to merge synthetic and organic computing that sidestepped the ethical concerns entirely. "There's more," Rodriguez said, seemingly oblivious to the shock he caused. "We've been analyzing the recent incidents along the Confederation's borders, the pirate attacks, the mysterious disappearances of supply ships. We believe we've identified the pattern." The hologram shifted, showing a map of Confederation space overlaid with complex mathematical formulae. "Someone is testing your defenses, exploiting the predictability of your response patterns. We estimate you have 3 standard months before they launch a major offensive." High Counselor Gentis' sensory appendages trembled. "What evidence do you have of this?" "The same evidence you have," Rodriguez replied. "We just looked at it differently. Your military responds to threats the same way every time, following established protocols. An intelligent adversary can use that predictability against you. They've been probing your defenses, learning your patterns. Each raid slightly different, measuring response times, testing assumptions." Admiral Vix stepped forward. "The humans are correct. I've reviewed their analysis. The attacks show a level of coordination we missed because we were looking for traditional military patterns." The assembly descended into heated debate. The humans sat quietly, watching the chaos with what appeared to be mild interest. Finally, Elder Cax spoke again. "You knew this would cause upheaval, the ancient being observed. Yet you chose to present it here, publicly, rather than through private diplomatic channels." Rodriguez nodded. "Of course. Your enemies are watching every move you make. By publicly challenging your military doctrine, we create uncertainty. They can no longer be sure their carefully gathered intelligence is accurate." A slow realization spread through the assembly. The humans hadn't just identified a threat. They had already begun countering it by making this public presentation. The very act of proposing changes to Confederation doctrine had introduced an element of unpredictability into the strategic equation. "You're playing a deeper game," Elder Cax said, something like appreciation in his ancient voice. "We're not playing at all," Rodriguez replied. "That's what none of you seem to understand. For us, this isn't about military strength or political advantage. It's about survival. The universe is vast and largely unknown. The only way to prepare for the unknowable is to become unknowable yourself." As the assembly continued to debate, Admiral Vix noticed something odd about the human delegation. While the rest of the chamber was in turmoil, they appeared completely at ease. It wasn't confidence, she realized. It was comfort with chaos itself. The humans hadn't come to join the Confederation. They had come to transform it. The warning came 3 days earlier than the humans had predicted. A massive fleet of unknown origin emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Confederation space, their ships bearing designs never before encountered in the known galaxy. In the Confederation's Strategic Command Center, chaos reigned. The unknown fleet had already breached 2 defensive lines, their weapons somehow bypassing the standardized shields that protected Confederation worlds. Dozens of colony planets had gone dark. "They know our weaknesses," Admiral Vix declared to the emergency session of the High Council. "Every strategy we've attempted has failed. They counter our formations before we complete them. They'd predict our attack patterns with perfect accuracy." The humans were right. Elder Cax observed quietly. "We made ourselves too predictable." A new hologram flickered to life in the center of the command center. Director Sarah Chen's image appeared, looking surprisingly calm given the circumstances. I assume you're ready to implement our proposals now. High Counselor Genta's compound eyes flashed with anger. This is not the time for. This is exactly the time. Chen interrupted. Your entire defense network is compromised. The enemy has studied you for years, learning every protocol, every response pattern. But they haven't studied us. Another figure appeared beside Chen. Dr. Rodriguez from the Diplomatic Corps. We've activated our Quantum Mirror Defense Initiative. Earth's entire military infrastructure is at your disposal, but you have to let us coordinate the response our way. The council chamber erupted in argument, but fell silent as tactical displays showed 3 more Confederation worlds going dark. Finally, Elder Cax spoke. We accept. What followed was unlike anything the Confederation had ever experienced. Earth's fleet arrived in waves, each ship different from the last. Some phased in and out of normal space, making them impossible to target. Others seemed to split into multiple copies of themselves, each operating independently, but in perfect coordination. The humans' Infinity Mirror defense system, now fully operational, began redirecting enemy attacks back through probability space, causing the invaders' own weapons to strike their ships from impossible angles. Quantum biological computers coordinated the chaotic dance of Earth's varied weapon systems, turning apparent randomness into devastating precision. But it was more than just technology. The humans introduced tactical concepts that seemed to defy logic. Ships would deliberately expose vulnerabilities, only to turn those weaknesses into traps. Defense platforms would shut down completely, then reactivate with entirely different capabilities. This isn't war, Admiral Vix realized as she watched the battle unfold. This is improvisation on a cosmic scale. The enemy fleet, for the first time, showed signs of confusion. Their perfect predictions failed as they encountered systems they had never seen before, strategies that changed faster than they could analyze them. Ships designed to exploit specific weaknesses in Confederation technology found themselves facing weapons that shouldn't exist, defenses that operated on principles they couldn't understand. In the command center, Director Chen's hologram smiled. Do you see now? The greatest weapon isn't the strongest ship or the most powerful gun. It's unpredictability. The ability to change, to adapt, to surprise even yourself. The battle raged for 3 days. By the end, the enemy fleet was in full retreat, their carefully planned invasion in ruins. They had prepared for every possible response from the Confederation, but they hadn't prepared for humanity. In the aftermath, as damage reports flowed in, High Counselor Genta approached the human delegation. How did you develop all these technologies, these strategies, the resources required? That's the beauty of it, Rodriguez explained. Most of what you saw wasn't developed specifically for war. They're repurposed technologies from other fields. Medical research gave us quantum probability manipulation. Entertainment systems led to our hybrid computing networks. Even our waste recycling systems were converted into weapon platforms. Everything can be something else, Director Chen added. That's what makes us different. We don't build things for single purposes. We build them to change. The High Council chamber, still showing holographic replays of the battle, fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just saved the Confederation. They had demonstrated a fundamentally different way of thinking about technology, about warfare, about existence itself. Admiral Vix, watching the expressions of shock and awe on her fellow council members' faces, finally understood what made humans truly unique. It wasn't their technology or their military prowess. It was their refusal to accept limitations, their ability to see possibilities where others saw only rules. The Confederation had survived, but it would never be the same. The age of predictability was over. 3 months after the failed invasion, the Confederation's Grand Assembly Hall had been transformed. Gone were the rigid seating arrangements that had defined the space for millennia. In their place stood a dynamic chamber where representatives could move freely, forming and reforming discussion groups as needed. The change was symbolic of the larger transformation sweeping through Confederation space. Elder Cax, oldest of the precursors, stood before the assembled representatives. We gather today not just to commemorate our victory, but to embrace a new way of thinking. The humans have shown us that strength lies not in perfection, but in adaptability. The assembly had changed. Species that once relied solely on technology now explored biological solutions. Others that had shunned cybernetics began integrating quantum computing into their societies. Every member race was experimenting, innovating, breaking free from thousands of years of standardized development. Dr. Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's permanent ambassador, addressed the assembly. The enemy fleet we faced wasn't just testing our military defenses. They were testing our ability to change. They assumed that any civilization advanced enough to achieve interstellar travel would become set in its ways, bound by tradition and protocol. They weren't wrong. Until now. Holographic displays showed the transformation occurring throughout Confederation space. Shipyards produced vessels of wildly different designs. Defense systems incorporated principles from art, music, and nature. The rigid hierarchy that had defined the Confederation for so long was evolving into something more fluid, more resilient. But the greatest change, Director Chen added, her hologram joining Rodriguez, isn't in our technology or our military doctrine. It's in how we think about possibility itself. She gestured, and the chamber's displays showed something new. A massive construction project at the edge of Confederation space. We call it the Nexus of Possibility. Not just a research station or a military installation, but a place where different species can come together to experiment, to combine their unique perspectives in ways we never imagined possible. Admiral Vix, recently appointed to lead the Confederation's new Adaptive Defense Initiative, stepped forward. We've confirmed that the enemy fleet came from beyond the galactic rim. They'll return, possibly with new strategies, new technologies. But when they do, they won't find the same Confederation they nearly defeated. They'll find something they can't predict. The assembly erupted in approval, but Elder Cax raised a hand for silence. There is a price for this transformation. The comfort of certainty, the safety of routine. These must be sacrificed for the power of possibility. Are we prepared to live in a state of constant change? That's the secret, Rodriguez smiled. You already do. The universe itself is in constant flux. We just pretended otherwise, created artificial stability through standardization. All we're doing is embracing reality. Director Chen's hologram nodded. Every scientific discovery challenges our assumptions. Every new species we encounter brings fresh perspectives. The only true constant is change itself. The assembly chambers hummed with energy as representatives discussed, debated, and dreamed. Species that had been rivals for centuries found themselves collaborating on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. The rigid boundaries between military, scientific, and civilian development began to blur. And what of Earth? High Counselor Genta asked. Will you join the Confederation now? Rodriguez exchanged glances with Chen before responding. We already have. Not as subordinates or equals, but as catalysts. Earth doesn't want to rule or dominate. We want to explore, to experiment, to push the boundaries of what's possible. And now finally, we found others who want the same thing. As the assembly session concluded, Admiral Vix found herself standing with Elder Cax, watching the representatives disperse. Does it worry you? She asked the ancient being. All this change, this uncertainty. The elder's response carried the weight of millennia. What worries me is how long we resisted it. The humans didn't introduce chaos into our ordered universe. They merely showed us the chaos that was always there and taught us how to dance with it. Above them, the chamber's crystalline ceiling reflected the light of distant stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the galactic rim, their enemies were surely preparing for another attempt. But they would find a very different confederation waiting for them, one that had learned humanity's greatest lesson. The future belongs not to those who plan for it, but to those who are ready to reimagine it. The age of rigid order was over. The age of endless possibility had begun.